Okay, everyone. Welcome to um, Medicine Buddha. Um, I bring you greetings from London, where I am currently um, on tour, on teaching tour. So I'm glad to be here. It's about 11 o'clock here. Um, so, but I am here. I taught earlier tonight. Um, at a Dharma center. So I'm just getting back. I told them I had to get out of there, so I had to teach Medicine Buddha. Um, so great. If you're new, please say hello in the chat. For those of you who are coming back, you can also say hello. Um, you can also do prayer requests. So for those of you who are new, this is a guided practice based upon the tradition of Medicine Buddha, coming out of the Tibetan Buddhist tantric tradition. Um, and it's optional if you would like to offer prayer requests. I'll be offering up prayer requests as well. Um, so awesome. So we'll just give a few minutes for people to kind of get into the room and get settled. And we'll get started with practice pretty soon. I'm doing practice from my very, very tiny hotel room. I'm staying in Westminster here in London, so it's going really well. So I'm happy to be here. There's so much happening in the world. But I think it's always a pleasure, you know, um, and a necessity to continue doing. Actually, as we get ready for our practice, I wanted to talk a little bit about practice. There's a lot happening right now. A lot of there's war, right? There's climate instability. It's still pandemic happening, um, and this is a time that we have to rely on our practice right now. I am excited to be practicing right now. I'm excited to be doing Medicine Buddha because I need practice. I get as much out of this practice um, leading it as I would, receiving it, being a participant, you know. Um, and like we have to cultivate this attitude of being looking forward to practice. Now, granted, like I have definitely at the beginning of my practice, I definitely experienced many times where I just did not want to do formal practice. I didn't want to sit and chat. I didn't want to sit and meditate. I didn't want to do asana practice or yoga. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to like chill out. Um, I think my chair is heated or something. I don't know. My chair is warm. Um, but one of the things that we're practicing for is to develop, to start to develop a love of practice. Like when you're like just like you can't wait to get into the practice. You can't wait to get to the mat, or you can't wait to get to the cushion. Like whatever it is, like just like I need this. This is something that nourishes me. This is something that you know like offers so much of what I need. It's like having a really good meal. It's like not eating for a while, right? And really anticipating what the next meal will be like. It's like when you're fasting, and or during a detox or something. And at least for me, when I'm going through periods of fasting, uh, like all I think about is like what the first meal after fast is going to be. And I think that's the same kind of energy we have towards practice. Is like, I can't wait to experience this practice. I can't wait to show up to this. And this anticipation also comes from the ways in which we surrender to the practice. We always talk about this in our sessions, right? It's how do we let the practice work for us? How do we let the practice work for us? How do I allow the practice to take care of me? This is incredibly important, you know. Like we practice is meant to be caring for us, right? And when I do my practice, I surrender to the care, right? I surrender. And what is it? What are we surrendering to? That's a good question too. What are we surrendering to? Well, I'm surrendering into the ways in which my experience is just simply trying to be. Instead of fighting against things, like we're always pushing away things or grabbing onto things, like letting that go and just allowing. I'm surrendering to this experience of just allowing everything to be. There's a way in which there's a kind of aggression that we're engaged in that's really exhausting, right? Some of you who've been around, um, you've been practicing for a bit, particularly Mahamudra. So in Mahamudra, we have this instruction of non-doing. Like meditation is non-doing, non-effort. So the energy is like, I'm just showing up and allowing the mind to be in its natural state. Um, and that's all we're trying, that's literally all we're trying to do. But we get into the practice and it feels so much like efforting. It's like, oh, I'm putting a lot of effort in. That's why so many of us are exhausted after a meditation practice. Like it's just we spend so much time efforting and doing and pushing and pulling and struggling. Really, when it's just the practice is just allowing, right? So just to begin a little bit, and please continue to post prayer requests because I will be reading those and offering those. But like just to begin, we just spend just like a little bit of time, I don't know, a minute or two, where we're beginning our practice, trying to experience, allowing ourselves to be, allowing thoughts and emotions to simply be, allowing sensations in the bodies. If we're able to work with our bodies tonight, allowing those sensations to be, you know, this is for me the sweetest, most profound part of practice is when I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to let things be. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of fighting the anger. I'm tired of fighting the sadness, right? Just allowing. But in the allowing, we find ourselves experiencing, right? We can only allow if we have the courage to experience the material that's arising for us as thoughts, emotions, or sensations. And so what you notice is that everything that we're pushing away just comes to the forefront, and usually what comes to the forefront is the discomfort, and that discomfort can be sadness, irritation, anxiety, fear, brokenheartedness. So in your private space, I want you also to engage in what we call noting. But I want you to say, articulate that note. Just like say it out loud. Like whatever arises for you, just say it. Like, if you're sensing sadness, you say, oh, sadness, or happiness, or gratitude, or pain. right? So we're going to spend a little time doing that just to kind of warm up and start, getting into practice. Just noting what's arising as we just start the work of allowing ourselves to be. So, again, if you're just joining us, we're just practicing allowing. This is like kind of an open awareness practice, just allowing everything to arise within our experience, and we're just naming what we're experiencing, out loud, naming it, articulating it right in your space, just saying sadness or grief or whatever you're beginning to notice and experience. As I've said before in the past, this is the space where the deity arises. Right? This is the space where medicine Buddha arises within this openness, within this transparency, this truth telling, like the wisdom deity, right? The deity that arises out of the the coming together, or the I guess the union of compassion and wisdom. That deity, the wisdom deity that arises out of that. Like the deity can't arise, fully and authentically if we're not doing this ground level work, you know, just telling the truth, allowing things to arise. And so maybe what begins to awaken for you is this experience of space, spaciousness, this experience of feeling less constricted or contracted, this feeling of feeling less rigid and shut down, but open, fluid, you know. This is the antidote to feeling overwhelmed and feeling anxious, right? Like when there's so much um, urgency, I would say, urgency in the space around us, we find ourselves reacting to that urgency like we have to do everything. We're, like doing anything feels like it's productive when it's not always the case. You know, when we're practicing like this, allowing things to come and go, to arise as they will, the space opens up for us to choose to be responsive, not reactive. In responsiveness, I can choose something that's wise and compassionate. I can choose something that maybe is a little more effective, right, than just habitually reacting to something. And there's so much, again, so much that we're reacting to. And I actually have been talking a lot about this already tonight for the community I was teaching with. Um, like how are we responding to all the urgency around us? And I would say that our reactivity becomes functional in a sense where the reactivity keeps us away from the brokenheartedness and from the intensity of the brokenheartedness, of my sadness of the world and what's happening. Not just the world and what's happening in my life as well. If I can just stay busy enough, if I can just stay distracted enough, that I won't have to deal with the brokenheartedness, the grief, the confusion. And I notice how people like speeding up is quite bizarre. But it's like either people are speeding up or I'm slowing down. But there's a lot of like, okay, things are back to normal. And I say, ooh, back to what? More, there's no such thing as normal. It never has been normal, nor will it ever be normal. It just is. This is this moment. Every moment is different. How do we just show up to the moment and say, yeah, this is happening in this moment? Oh, here's the next moment. This is what's happening in this moment. Not trying to go back to something or trying to fall into some like romanticized view of how things are, because that romanticized view is really based upon our personal comfort. What's normal is actually what I think is comfortable for me. And we've never been comfortable. There's no such thing as comfort, in the way that we want to think about comfort. But there is this experience of connecting to the inherent space that holds everything and is an expression of everything. Like to lean into that reality, which is what medicine Buddha does, is what deity practice in this tradition is doing. It's like we call the deity into practice. Most often we're In the past couple of months, we've been practicing not so much with an image of medicine Buddha, but with the energy and the feeling of the deity. But traditionally we imagine the deity as an expression of this space, this emptiness, this fluidity, and our minds and our awareness rather mingles with that representation of the deity, and we're drawn into embodying that fluidity, the spaciousness of the deity. So connecting to this, like, so you're coming in and out, right? And this is what I'm doing. Like, it's for me, this is really, it's tending to a lot of needs right now to feel open and fluid and spacious, to lean into that, to drink into this experience of space, right? I often, um, when we do, I know I haven't done Tara and Mother practice in months, many months now, and I know I'm going to get back to it. But for those of you who used to join me for Tara or my Tara practice, we talked about how we offer everything to the mother, like everything to the mother. It's one of my personal teachings, everything to the mother. And what I mean by that is like I am offering everything to space itself because the mother is an expression. The mother in Southeast Asian religion is an expression of space itself, right? The personification of space, right? So when I offer everything to the mother, I'm just remembering that everything is and always will be held within this experience of space. That I'm not creating anything. I'm not manipulating anything, like it just is. And what I'm doing in practice is remembering what the natural state of things are. Just remember, I'm not creating, I'm remembering. I'm tuning in to something that is always happening and will continue to happen. This is the foundational root practice here, which we would call, this is, mindfulness, but moving into like vipassana, or insight practice, where we're actually beginning to connect to the nature of things, to the nature of a thought, the nature of emotion, the nature of a sensation, or the nature of phenomena around us. And we say, yeah, I am noticing the sadness, but the sadness is an expression of space. And when I'm able to name that, then I can at the same time offer it back to the mother, which again is remembering that everything is held by space. That I don't have to do anything except be. And this doesn't mean that you stop caring. It doesn't mean that you become, you know, um, like directionless or whatever. It doesn't mean that like you stop working and organize. It doesn't mean any of that. You know, it means that you develop discernment about where your energy will be directed, what the work is. Instead of just wasting energy and reacting to everything, we become discerning through responding, and directing that energy to where our energy is most needed. Or, another way that I put this is that like I start figuring out what my work is. Maybe my work isn't responding to this over here, but my work is maybe responding to this right here. But again, as I've said this over and over again in our teachings together, like this is where the deity is calling us. This is when we practice long enough, we begin to hear the deity, or we begin to hear God. If that's the language you're using, you begin to hear God, you begin to hear medicine Buddha, you begin to hear the mother, right? In this space. What does hearing mean? Remembering always that the deity is speaking to us through through this through the experience, through the experience of spaciousness, wide openness. When I feel free and fluid and open and not overwhelmed, that is the deity speaking to us, to me, to you. And it's a sweetness. It's a sweetness. It's sweet because it's not the jagged jolting of reactivity. It is the sweetness, the leisure, of surrendering to this wide open experience. That everything is being held at once. And yes, it's faint. It can be a faint experience, but it's there. It's always there. Regardless of who we are, that experience is underlining everything. And meditation is training us to hear that, to feel it, to sense it, to embody it. This is what I mean also when I say going home. Like when I go home, this is where I'm going to, into the space, into the fluidity. So letting go, right? What does it mean to let go right now? What are you holding on to? Let let whatever needs to rise right now. Let go of like pushing away and holding on. Just let it rise. So abiding here, right, in this space, abiding in this like really nuanced, subtle space of arising, right? This we're getting closer and closer to the the point where it like the deity emerges, arises, born. Like we're drawing closer and closer and deeper into that experience, and it's subtle. It's really subtle and takes time to train in the subtlety of noticing, of experiencing. So I want us to um, begin with our first mantra, Mela Sange Kino Soha. Mela Kino, Mela Sange Kino Soha. So Mela. So Mela Sange means medicine Buddha. Mela means medicine. Sange means, enlightened one, or Buddha. Kino is a word that means to think of, to know. So we're praying in the mantra, in the chant, for medicine Buddha to know us, to think of us. And so again, like this is such, in terms of devotion, um, this is something that is, for me, in terms of devotion, is something for me. This is the heart of my practice. Is devotion. Is the longing, right, for the deity to emerge. Right. It's the same as the longing for God. The longing for the divine. It's the same thing as the longing for medicine, which is an expression of our most awakened nature. I would say our awakened nature. Period is our awakened nature, period. Not our most, but our awakened nature. Right? And this is what the deity in this system of practice is leading us back to, our most awakened nature. Omen la sange kino soha. So I think we're gonna chant this a couple of times. For those of you who are new, you don't have to chant along, but you can listen. Well, you'll listen to me. But as we chant this or listen to it, I wonder if we can just keep surrendering deeper and deeper into this experience of wide openness of space. And I wonder if we can trust the space to take care of us, to work for us, to do work for us, to do labor for us. Like this longing of wanting Medicine Buddha to think of us, to know us, to take care of us, is our effort of surrendering, of letting go, of being held, by Medicine Buddha, being held by the mother, which is again, the mother being the expression of space itself. Can we just be held? Yes, the world is, intense right now. And in this intensity, we have to also be cared for by experiences that can care for us. And space is an experience that cares for us, it takes care of us. Again, everything to the mother, including ourselves, even me, I offer to space. I offer to this vast ocean of awakened, intelligent, conscious energy. So we'll begin with our chanting. Omenla Sangye Kino Soha, which is in the chat box. Everyone, Omenla Sangye Kino Soha. All right. We begin. Omenla Sangye Kino Soha. Om La 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 Sangye Kino Soha. So we're going to continue chanting it. This time I want you to hum it. So humming the mantra and the vibrations of the mantra actually began to impact and awaken energy centers within the body, particularly our main chakras. So we're going to hum it a few times. And again, surrendering, opening. Okay? So let's move even deeper into the practice. So this opening mantra has really begun to kind of ignite the energy inside of us and around us, right? And we may feel energy moving in our bodies or maybe around us, but definitely, possibly, not for everyone, but possibly for some of us, we feel some energetic moving in the body. Now I invite you just to begin to shift your attention to the seat. So noticing the seat under you. Noticing the weight of the body, making contact with the seat, allowing that sensation of the body making contact with the seat to really hold your attention. And I know some of you go to sleep when we start getting into this, and it's okay. Like that's part of the practice. Like you start energy shifts, you start relaxing, you start slipping into sleep, and that's okay. Some of you really need to rest. But I'm not, this isn't yoga nidra or anything, but like, if you go to sleep, you go to sleep. But again, turning attention back to the seat, letting the weight of the body making contact with the seat hold you. And I wonder if you can trust the seat to hold you. And now let's shift our attention down into the earth. So again, if you're new to this practice with me, so our attention begins to touch the earth. And we can physically touch the earth as well for that connection. I'm really wanting us to first experience the energy of our awareness, which is conscious energy, touching the conscious energy of the earth under us. And quite frankly, the earth elemental energy is in everything, right? But just like for now, the orientation is to touch the land under us. And what does it feel like? What is your experience of our awareness touching really the awareness of the earth under us? What kind of groundedness do you maybe experience? And so as we are entering into spring, um, entering into the spring, we're gonna continue doing some chakra opening practice because spring is opening, it's awakening. So we're gonna go back and continue with the practices that we've been working on for a couple of weeks, going back to the earth practice, the earth breath practice, moving that energy up. In this session, moving it into the heart chakra, um, and opening the heart chakra a little more. Um, and also the root chakra as well. So, which is at the base of the spine. So, we'll be working with the base of the spine and the heart center. Um, so, as we begin, I'll be offering two sets of practices for those of us who are working with the breath and for those of us who aren't working with the breath. Um, so, for those of us working with the breath, shifting your attention to the breath, and we're going to imagine just breathing up and down the central channel or up and down the spine from the base of the spine up to the top of the head. Okay, so we're inhaling up, exhaling down. You can even imagine as you're inhaling and exhaling up and down the spine that the breath is massaging each vertebrae of the spine. Again, up and down. So a few more breaths. Okay, just finishing this last exhale and coming back down to the base of the spine. Now turning our attention back to the earth. So our awareness again is touching the earth, noticing how we may be connecting to the energy of the earth. So the energy of the earth may feel like the energy of stability, of groundedness. And so we will imagine inhaling that energy of groundedness or stability into the base of the spine, which is the root chakra. And that energy first begins to stabilize the root chakra, which is the energy of, well, I'm sorry, which is about the root chakra is about connection to home, stability, belonging, groundedness itself, right? Steadiness, stability. So we'll begin to imagine inhaling the energy of the earth into the base of the spine, into the root chakra, and holding the energy and the breath for a couple of seconds in the base of the spine, and then slowly exhaling that energy up into the heart chakra, where we imagine that that energy deeply infuses into the heart chakra. So, in the heart chakra, I want us to imagine that there is a closed green lotus flower, right? And of course, you can imagine any flower that you want, or you don't have to imagine a flower at all, right? But the sake of keeping on brand with the tradition, we're gonna, I invite you to imagine a closed green lotus flower. And when we exhale this energy from the base of the spine into the heart chakra, that energy infuses into that closed lotus, and it begins to slowly open, blossom. And that is the the opening that symbolizes the opening of the heart chakra, the opening of the heart, of compassion, of love, of capacity to empathize, right? So again, inhaling into the base of the spine, holding that breath, releasing up into the heart chakra, where the energy is absorbed by the closed lotus and it begins to open. And that's all we're going to be doing, right, for this part of the practice. So if you're not working with the breath, just imagine that this energy is being absorbed into the roots, the base of the spine, the root chakra, and then imagine it moving up into the heart chakra, being absorbed by the closed lotus. Now, again, as I said several times before, we don't have to see anything, or we don't have to get anxious about not experiencing anything or seeing anything. Just to the best of your capacity, just at least saying, okay, this is happening. you know there's energy moving, that the energy of the earth is rising up into my body, my heart chakra is opening. That's all we can, that's all we have to do. All right, so let's begin. So shifting our attention back down to the base of the spine, and we're just going to just breathe in and out of the base of the spine for a couple of breaths. All right. Now, on the next inhale, we're imagining breathing from the earth, inhaling the energy of the earth into the base chakra, the base of the spine, holding that breath for a couple of seconds, exhaling that breath up into the heart center, where that green lotus blossom begins to bloom. And so, breath after breath, as we send this energy up to the heart chakra, we just imagine that that blossom is getting wider and bigger and stronger as it absorbs more and more of this energy from the earth. Okay? So, inhaling into the root chakra, holding, and releasing up into the heart chakra. And that green lotus begins to blossom. And just repeating this as much as you can. And we'll just do this for a couple of breaths, and then we'll transition into the mantra. Tonight it will be without the drum. So we'll just chant it. Te taun bacon se maha bacon se lasa sumangate soha. But we'll get to that. Just about two more breaths, practicing this inhaling from the earth into the heart chakra. All right. So as we continue the breath, we'll transition into our mantra practice. And Teyata, and well, this mantra is a prayer to Medicine Buddha, simply just for healing. Teyata, great Medicine Buddha, please heal me. And that basically, that's the translation. So just chanting this and listening to this, and just continuing to move through the breath practice, or if you're not working with the breath, just through this feeling of moving energy up into the heart chakra to awaken the heart. Okay, so we'll begin. 오태야tom begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razusumungati sua. Eyatom begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razusumungati sua. Eyatom begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumunga tesoa. Teatam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumunga tesoa. Teatam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumunga tesoa. Teata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumunga te soha. Teata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumunga te soha. Teata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumunga te soha. Teatam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumunga te soha. Teatam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumunga te soha. Teatam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumunga te soha. 제하자옴 백은세 백은세 마하백은세 라스수문가치 소하 제하자옴 백은세 백은세 마백은세 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 라스수문가치 소하. We're going to transition into offering our prayers and then going back into our mantra practice. So, as always, I call into our space, our practice, the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, the Dharma protectors, our ancestors, all benevolent deities, all beings of light, angels. We call into the space all the elements, including the earth. And I call our attention into the space to hold the offering of these prayer requests. And I pray to these invited guests that they move and work on our behalf to bring about the blessings, the aspirations that we most want for ourselves and for those that we are offering prayers for. We begin by offering prayers for our homecoming circles, offering prayers for me and my sister in healing our relationship, offering prayers for continued courage to set boundaries at work and take care of myself, prayers for harmony in my workplace, offering prayers for the Watkins family as Betty Jane and her husband are in separate hospitals, offering prayers for the overwhelm, reactivity, and fatigue in so many of us at this time, offering prayers for safe and easeful travels north, for the safety and well being of all beings everywhere, offering prayers for my mother, offering prayers this week for my best friend who is overwhelmed and having a hard time, offering prayers for my friend Ruth who passed into the Bardo last week, prayers for the liberation of the land in Humboldt neighborhood. May we honor Ruth's legacy. Offering prayers for Danigella and Dale, my father, and myself. May we all be grounded in times of great transition. Offering prayers. I want to continue to offer for okay. So I don't know where we actually left off at, but I want to continue praying. So I continue to pray again for all of us who are struggling and surviving systematic violence, and that we all may be free and liberated from this violence and from suffering. I continue to pray for all people, including the people in the Ukraine who survive and are victimized by war. We all may be free from this violence. Now, I need to pray for all these as well. Um, Here in the UK and around the world, um, I'm able to offer offensive